On December 24th, 2008, the town of Covina was alive with the spirit of the holidays. The Ortega family gathered in their warm, inviting home, enjoying the laughter of children and the aroma of freshly baked gingerbread cookies. But amidst the festive joy, something ominous approached their door. Bruce Paro, a former NASA engineer with a reputation for being kind and approachable, arrived dressed as Santa Claus in a pristine new suit. In his possession, however, were items far from festive, and on his finger was a faded wedding ring, a small but telling clue of what was to unfold. 8-year-old Katrina exclaimed in delight, "Santa Claus." For her, this moment should have been magical. Instead, what followed changed everything. In mere moments, the cheerful atmosphere turned into chaos, and the holiday celebration became an unimaginable tragedy. My name is Alex Harper, a dedicated investigator of cases where appearances hide deeper truths. And this, "He Raises the Ring," is a symbol of the story we're about to explore. It's hard to imagine, isn't it, that someone you see as warm and approachable, a neighbor, a coworker, or even a loved one, could be concealing something unthinkable. The story of the Covina tragedy raises questions about the hidden sides of people and what drives them to do the unimaginable. Bruce Paro wasn't acting out of impulse. He was calm, calculated, and spent months planning his actions. Narration. In a hidden room at Bruce's Montrose home, police found a journal with a final entry written on Christmas Eve. It contained ominous words hinting at his state of mind. Alongside the journal was a wedding album, altered in ways that revealed deep emotional turmoil. What stood out most, however, was Bruce's preparation. Over time, he had methodically acquired various items, stitched together his Santa suit, and even participated in community holiday events, all while keeping his intentions hidden. His actions weren't impulsive. They were part of a plan crafted over months of careful thought. I've researched many cases, but this one stays with me because of the deliberate nature of it all. What struck me most wasn't just the planning, but the way Bruce maintained a facade of normalcy throughout. Even as everything unfolded, he clung to reminders of his past, a wedding ring, a photograph. These weren't just objects. They represented the life he couldn't let go of in a way that ultimately caused harm to those around him. Narration. When investigators searched Bruce's home, they uncovered a chilling detail, a photograph of the Ortega family, carefully preserved, with handwritten notes attached. It seemed to reflect a mindset overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't process. Bruce's feelings toward his ex-wife weren't just rooted in love. They were complicated by resentment and a desire to control what he felt he had lost. Christmas Eve, meant to be a time of connection and joy, became a moment that changed everything for the Ortega family. But the question that remains is this: how did no one recognize the signs of the storm brewing beneath his seemingly cheerful exterior? At 9 p.m. on December 24th, 2008, Bruce Paro arrived at the Ortega family's home, holding a device he had secretly prepared. He was dressed in a Santa suit, its synthetic material tightly fitting, a decision that would later lead to unforeseen consequences. Inside, young Katrina was eagerly counting down. 5, 4, 3, ready to welcome the man she believed to be Santa Claus. What she didn't know was that this visitor would forever change her family's story in a way no one could have imagined. This is what remains of Bruce Paro's Santa suit, a material that was meant to symbolize joy and tradition, but ended up becoming part of a tragic event. The choice of synthetic material, likely unconsidered, ended up playing a pivotal role in what followed. But before everything unraveled, Bruce took actions that altered the lives of everyone in that home. His decisions left behind a haunting question: how did an 8-year-old survive such an overwhelming moment of fear and confusion? Narration. When the first disruption broke the evening's peace, James Ortega, Katrina's uncle, immediately acted to protect his family. His bravery was evident, even in such a chaotic and unexpected situation. Charles, James's brother, tried to follow suit, but the situation spiraled quickly, leaving little room for action. Meanwhile, upstairs, Michael, a 17-year-old high school student, was in his room typing a message to his girlfriend, "I'll be back soon." The message was never finished. Smoke began to fill the house, making it impossible to see or breathe clearly. Despite the overwhelming circumstances, Letitia, the mother of young Katrina, found incredible strength. She carried her daughter to safety, pushing through shattered glass and heavy smoke. Later, Letitia would recall the chilling sounds of that night, memories that she said would stay with her forever. Do you see? This wasn't just about what happened. It was about the memories that remain. Bruce may have tried to erase the legacy of this family, but he couldn't erase their resilience or the love they shared. The scars on Katrina's face, the fragments of a shattered phone, and the photographs salvaged from the ashes, they all stand as powerful reminders of a story that cannot be silenced. Narration. In the early hours of Christmas morning, Bruce was found at his brother's home. He still wore his faded wedding ring. Strangely, despite having planned a getaway, he never followed through with it. The police later found a clue in his belongings, a photograph of the Ortega family from a happier time. On the back, a note read, "You'll always be mine." It seemed Bruce's actions weren't about escaping. They were about leaving an indelible mark on the lives of those he once called family. As dawn broke on December 25th, 2008, the town of Covina was silent, enveloped in grief. Smoke still rose from the remains of the Ortega family's home, and firefighters carefully sifted through the debris. Nearby, police respectfully covered the victims while neighbors stood on the sidelines, holding each other in shared sorrow. The faint smell of smoke lingered in the air, a reminder of the heartbreaking events that had unfolded. Among the survivors was Letitia, holding her daughter Katrina close. The young girl's face was wrapped in bandages, a symbol of her remarkable survival. Letitia watched numbly as emergency vehicles carried away loved ones. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Why us?" Why on Christmas, the Ortega family didn't just lose their loved ones, they lost their sense of home. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything familiar, the sound of your parents' laughter, the smell of morning coffee, even an old, worn-out couch was gone. You feel like a stranger in the life you once knew. Letitia shared how she struggled. "I couldn't bear the sound of doorbells or children's laughter anymore." Every Christmas felt like reliving that night. Katrina, who survived against all odds, endured 15 surgeries to rebuild her face. The scars she carried weren't just physical, they were lasting reminders of a night she would never forget. Police Chief Tom Mitchell, who led the investigation, described the case as one of the most challenging he had ever encountered. It wasn't just the magnitude of the tragedy, but also the remnants left behind that painted a heartbreaking picture. In Michael's room, his computer displayed an unfinished message he had been typing to his girlfriend. "I love you." Next Christmas, Wheel, at the dining table, partially filled wine glasses and a scattered deck of cards told the story of a family gathering that had come to an abrupt halt. Among the evidence was a family photo taken in 2007. In it, Bruce stood smiling alongside Sylvia and her children, portraying what seemed to be a happy moment. A year later, no one could have imagined how drastically their lives would change. During the investigation, a handwritten letter was discovered in Bruce's home. The letter revealed his emotional turmoil and struggles. It contained feelings of resentment towards Sylvia and her family, which he expressed in strong terms. What stood out the most, however, wasn't just the content, but the tone, methodical and detached. The letter described his actions as part of a deliberate plan, as though it were a task he felt compelled to complete. Experts analyzing the case suggested that Bruce may have exhibited signs of a narcissistic personality, interpreting events in a way that placed himself as a victim. This distorted view seemed to justify, in his mind, actions that deeply affected everyone around him. Stolen childhoods. Narration. Among the survivors, the children bore the heaviest burdens. 5-year-old Luis, who lost both his parents that night, reportedly pointed to the ashes and said, "They're sleeping there." Sofia, a 12-year-old friend of Michael, recalled, "We had plans to play video games after Christmas. Now, every time I open my console, I see his last message, 'Almost done, hold on.' I wish I could reply." The children who survived grew up with invisible scars. Some developed a fear of Santa Claus, startled at the sound of fireworks, or needed to sleep with the lights on. A few even required therapy and medication to navigate their trauma during their teenage years. But in the midst of heartbreak, humanity shone through. After the tragedy, the town of Covina came together to support the Ortega family. Hundreds of people lined up to donate blood. Local restaurants delivered meals to the survivors weekly, and a church opened its doors to give them temporary shelter. One story stands out. A 10-year-old boy named Ethan sold his Christmas toys to raise money for Katrina. When asked why, he simply said, "I want her to know the real Santa still exists." While these acts couldn't erase the pain, they proved one thing: tragedy may test us, but kindness has the power to rebuild what feels broken. 10 years after the tragedy, Letitia stood in a cemetery, clutching a family photo. She reflected, "I haven't moved on from the loss, but I've learned how to move forward." Katrina, now a psychology student, shared her story during a TED Talk. "The scar on my face isn't a reminder of what happened to me. It's a testament to how much stronger I am than the pain I endured." The Ortega family also redefined their Christmas traditions. Instead of decorating their home, they now organize charity events, distributing gifts to children in need and lighting candles in remembrance. The Covina tragedy isn't just the story of one family. It's a wake-up call for society. It raises important questions. How can we recognize individuals who may be struggling with dangerous thoughts? 2. How can we address relationship breakdowns in a way that prevents resentment from festering? 3. How can communities support survivors without deepening their pain? What the Ortega family might have missed, and how you can help prevent something similar in your own life. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Before we close, I'd like to take a moment to honor the lives lost. They deserve to be remembered, not with fear, but with love and a renewed appreciation for the gift of life. Bruce Paro once seemed like the picture of success, a NASA engineer with a high income and a polished appearance. Neighbors described him as someone who would help elderly neighbors shovel snow in the winter and hand out candy to kids during Halloween. But beneath this seemingly perfect surface was a deeply troubled soul. Former colleagues recalled he never admitted mistakes. If anyone criticized him, Bruce would quietly hold onto a grudge. The first clue came from a journal police discovered in Bruce's desk drawer. The final page, written on the day his divorce was finalized, contained a scribbled message: "They'll pay. All of them." Nearby, they found a photo collage of Sylvia and her family marked with red ink. A broken marriage, the spark of resentment. To understand Bruce's motives, we need to go back to 2004 when he met Sylvia Ortega. Sylvia, a 40-year-old single mother, worked at a hair salon. Bruce fell for her quickly, and they married after just 8 months. But their marriage began to unravel due to 2 key issues. Key Cap 1 financial differences. Bruce was overly frugal, tracking every penny Sylvia spent, even asking her to reimburse him for personal items. Family tensions. Sylvia remained close to her Ortega family, while Bruce resented their influence. He viewed them as a threat, believing they were pulling her away from him. When Sylvia filed for divorce, Bruce felt humiliated and betrayed. According to letters he left behind, he viewed the divorce as an insult he could never forgive. Narration. In June 2008, Bruce visited a sporting goods store in Burbank with a specific list of items he intended to purchase. According to the store clerk, he mentioned it was for recreational use, so nothing seemed unusual at the time. Later that year, in November, Bruce went to a costume shop and ordered a custom Santa Claus suit. The shop owner recalled that Bruce requested additional pockets in the costume, mentioning they were meant for holding holiday items. During their investigation, authorities found materials in Bruce's garage that appeared to have been carefully prepared. Alongside these materials were notes indicating detailed instructions. These discoveries suggested that Bruce had been planning for an extended period of time. Scene 4. A plan that didn't go as expected. He also devised a plan to leave afterward. He rented 2 cars and packed one with clothing, cash, and maps, seemingly ready to begin a new chapter elsewhere. Investigators later found an itinerary saved on his computer. It outlined plans to travel to LAX and board a flight to Illinois, where he intended to start over under a new identity. However, there was one surprising detail. Bruce had purchased a plane ticket for 9 p.m. on December 24th, aligning with the same night his actions unfolded. This suggests he anticipated a seamless departure, believing the circumstances would work in his favor. Dr. Emily Carter, a psychologist, remarked, Bruce's behavior reflected overconfidence and a misplaced sense of control. His extensive preparations may have reinforced his belief that he could orchestrate everything to his advantage. Bruce's psychological profile revealed 3 concerning traits. 1, control obsession. He monitored Sylvia's phone calls and messages, even hiring private investigators to follow her. 2, grandiosity. Bruce viewed himself as both the victim and the hero, justifying his actions as a way to correct perceived wrongs. 3, lack of empathy. In his journal, he described his plan in detached, analytical terms, showing no acknowledgement of the pain it would cause others. Dr. Carter explained, individuals with narcissistic traits often see others as extensions of themselves. When they feel rejected or challenged, they may react in extreme and harmful ways. Bruce bought several weapons in a short time, but friends dismissed it as a hobby. 2, sudden personality changes. After the divorce, Bruce became withdrawn, but coworkers thought he was just going through a rough patch. Perfectionism. Bruce cleaned his house obsessively, which others saw as a harmless quirk. He cut off contact with friends, but the Ortega family assumed he needed space. In an email to Sylvia, Bruce wrote, "You'll regret this," which she brushed off as frustration. The lesson here is clear. Small changes in behavior can signal deeper issues. It's important to pay attention and take action when something feels off. A glimpse into his mindset. Narration. In Bruce's apartment, police found a collection of unsent letters addressed to Sylvia. In these writings, he blamed her and her family for his unhappiness, repeatedly expressing feelings of resentment. What's most unsettling is how Bruce viewed himself. In one letter, he wrote, "I'm just fixing what's wrong." This distorted perspective showed how he justified his actions, portraying them as a solution rather than a problem. Bruce Paro's story may have ended, but the lessons remain. While we can't prevent every tragedy, we can work to recognize warning signs and support those who may be struggling. Here are 3 key takeaways. Trust your instincts. If someone's behavior makes you uneasy, don't ignore it. Speak up. Take threats seriously. Even small, offhand comments can indicate deeper issues. Address them. 3, show kindness. Sometimes, a small act of compassion can make a big difference in someone's life. In Part 5, we'll explore how the Ortega family turned their pain into purpose, creating initiatives to help others heal. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. Before we close, I want to ask, if you ever notice someone displaying warning signs, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. After the tragedy, the Ortega family found temporary shelter with relatives. Letitia took 2 years to relearn how to smile. Each night, she held her husband's pillow close and whispered, "Can you see us? We're still here." Katrina, the young girl who had faced so much, wore a medical mask for 18 months as part of her recovery. When she went outside, some peers teased her, calling her names. But Katrina didn't let it break her. She told her mother, "I'll live like a miracle so that the bad people don't win." Scene 2, the power of community, kindness that lights the way. In the face of heartache, strangers became family. A veteran named John helped rebuild the Ortega home. Local high school students organized a fundraiser, selling secondhand items to support the family. One artist even gifted Katrina a portrait, capturing her bright smile and showing how it outshone the scars. Perhaps the most meaningful act came from Letitia herself. She started the Christmas Light Project, an initiative that brought hope to the community. Each year, she and other survivors decorated a public Christmas tree with ornaments carrying messages of encouragement. "We want to turn pain into hope," she explained. Katrina, the girl who rewrote her destiny. Narration. In 2022, Katrina stood confidently on a TED Talk stage, her face radiant under a touch of makeup. She shared her story. "I used to think of myself as a victim, but now I know I am proof that love is stronger than hate." The little girl who endured so much has grown into a lawyer dedicated to protecting children. In her office, she keeps a family photo taken before the tragedy, a constant reminder of her mission to ensure no one else has to endure what we did. The Ortega family's story teaches us 3 powerful lessons. No one is ever truly alone in their pain. There will always be kind hearts ready to comfort and support you. Scars are a testament to bravery. Don't hide your pain, transform it into strength. Love is the greatest weapon of all. While Bruce tried to destroy with harmful intent, the compassion and kindness of others are what will endure forever. If this video touched your heart, please subscribe and like to support meaningful stories like this one. Share it to spread the message. Violence is never the answer. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring stories of resilience and hope.